Yes, welcome now to this chapter where we are going to now talk about chord progressions. Now, if you've gone through the previous two chapters, first we talked about the major scale, we talked about the number system. That's where we get our chords along the scale, okay? Now, music is just a series of chord progressions. And there are some chord progressions which are very common in many songs. Now you need to understand how to speak in terms of numbers, and you need to understand the common chord progressions that are in many songs. Now one of the most common chord progressions you'll find in most songs existing in one way or the other is called the 2-5-1 chord progression. Now you'll find very many variations of this progression, okay? Now in the key of G sharp or F flat where we are, a 2-5-1 chord progression would be what? Of course, from our scale, we realize that our 2 is the B flat, okay? So our 2 is B flat, and chord number 2 usually is a minor 7th chord. So that would be B flat minor 7th. That would be our 2. And then what is our 5? D sharp dominant 7th, okay? 5. And then what is our 1? Of course, 1 is our F flat major 7th. Okay? Now, I'm going to do another section where I'll talk about chord voicings, but in this section I'll focus more on chord progressions, but they're related in one way or the other, okay? So, 2-5-1 chord progression would be B flat minor 7th to G to E flat dominant 7th or D sharp dominant 7th, and then to 1 our G sharp dominant 7th. So when you hear about 2-5-1, 2-5-1, basic, okay? Now, why is it important for you to understand this language? Is because in bands many times you'll just be given numbers and you'll be expected to know what chords you're supposed to play, okay? Now, instead of jumping up and down, we can use chord inversions so that we minimize that movement, especially when you're playing the extended chords, okay? The 7ths, you don't want to keep jumping around like that, okay? So this is what we can do. Instead of playing our B minor 7th here, we can bring it to a more central place, okay? So you can use this inversion: F, F flat, B flat, and C sharp. Okay, that becomes our 2. And then our 5, you can use the root position. And then on the 1, you can use that G sharp major 7th or F flat major 7th in this inversion. E flat, G, F flat, and C, okay? So we have our 2, 5, 1, okay? Okay. Now, you're going to combine a number of progressions. So first, practice that 2-5-1 in that inversion position I've given you, okay? 2-5-1. Now, on the left hand, I'm just using the roots, okay? To keep it simple for now. B flat, then D sharp, then F flat. So practice that until you're comfortable. Now the next progression is a 7-3-6. After the 2-5-1, we'll move to a 7-3-6. Now, the 7-3-6 chord progression is just a variation of the 2-5-1. Basically, they're both one and the same thing. Let me explain to you. A 7-3-6 progression in this key would be what? So our 7 is a G, and we said you can play it as a minor 7th flat 5 or as a diminished 7th, okay? So we can decide what we want to use, okay? So we can decide is that minor 7th flat 5 or the half diminished, okay? G, B flat, D flat, and F So if I do an inversion, I can bring this F down here. So I have this inversion, okay? F, G, B flat, and C sharp. That becomes our 7, okay? With our G on the left. And then our 3, remember we're doing a 7, 3, 6, so that's our 7. And then our 3 would be what? 3, C minor 7th, okay? C, E flat, G, and B flat. And then what would be our 6? F minor 7th, okay? Now my F minor 7th is being played in this inversion because I want to try to keep my chords. Remember, we want to keep our chords around the same place. We don't want to jump from that to that. So that is chord number 6, F minor 7th, but we are playing an inversion. So this is the inversion we're using: C, E flat, F, and F flat. So 7, 3, 6. I need to realize how I'm compacting my chords together, okay? Now we're going to combine those two chord progressions once, okay? So we have 2, 5, 1, okay? And then our 7, 3, 6, okay? We have that. Again, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1. Then our 7, 3, 6. Now, the reason why I said the 7, 3, 6 is just a variation of the 2, 5, 1 is because if you look at the 7, 3, 6 chord progression, 7, 3, 6. If you look at your destination as your 6, that's where we are ending at, okay? And think of your 6 as your 1. If you think of your 6, which is F, as your 1, and now you think in terms of the scale of F, okay? If the F major scale is F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. If you think in terms of the scale of F, G is 2 and C is 5 on the scale of F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So it's basically a 2, 5, 1 if you think in terms of F. So that's why we are saying 2, 5, 1 and 7, 3, 6 are both 2, 5, 1 chord progressions. Basically, that's the theory behind it. Now, this is a progression you will find in almost every song. So you really need to get it very accurately in your practice time. Okay? Now, another chord progression that is used very commonly is the 3, 6, 2, 5 chord progression. So, you know, we're just teasing our minds so that we can begin familiarizing ourselves with these progressions. 3, 6, 2, 5. What is that? 1, 2, 3. C minor 7th. 6. Our F minor 7th. 2. B flat minor 7th. And then 5. E flat dominant 7th. I want you to take note of my inversions, okay? My 3, I'm just using the normal the root position, okay, of C minor 7th, and then on my 6 I'm using this inversion, okay, and then on my 2, my B flat minor 7th, I'm using the root position, okay, and then on the 5, D dominant 7th, I'm using this inversion: B flat, C sharp, E flat, and G. Okay, so 3, 6, 2, 5. Now you can put on a kind of a swing beat, okay? 1 and 2, 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 okay? So that you have Okay, so I'm using that swing beat to give you an opportunity just to listen to how these movements happen in a real playing situation. So when you listen to songs, I want to challenge you to begin identifying these chord progressions. Okay, I believe you've heard this in very many songs. Or the 2-5-1. Now, there is a progression I'm going to give you. If you look at jazz standards, one of the most common jazz standard that is played, now this is not a jazz course, but we'll touch a little bit about some of these concepts because they cut across gospel and jazz. There is a tune called Autumn Leaves. It's one of the basic songs that people who are learning jazz start with, okay? And it's very rich in the 2-5-1. So I encourage you to go to YouTube and look for Autumn Leaves. Autumn is autumn, winter, spring, okay? Autumn. AUTUMN. Autumn leaves. Leaves for the leaf of a tree. Leaves, okay? Now, that progression is very rich in the 2-5-1, okay? Now, I'm going to give you one chord that you'll use to turn around for that progression. That means after it gets to the end, you're going to play that chord and start the progression again. And this is part of what I'll cover in the next section about passing chords. Now, I'll just give you this this one chord. It's an F dominant 7th chord of some sort, okay? F, A, C with the D flat, okay? Sorry, with the E flat. If you add that E flat on top of F major, you get an F dominant 7th chord. But you're going to use this chord as an inversion. It's just a passing chord that will be taking you back to your start, which was your 2, your B flat minor 7. So this is the practice you're going to do, okay? Then your 5, your 1, then your 4. On your 4, you'll play C sharp major 7th, okay? Of course, that's chord number 4. And then your 7, then your 3. Your 7, of course, remember it was your G half diminished 7th chord, okay? Inverted. Then your 3. Then you land on your 6, which is your F minor 7th, okay? So at the end I play that F dominant 7th, and on the left hand you can use that, you can play it along with an A because we are using it as our passing chord to our 2. So once again, 2, 5, 1, 4, 7, 3, 6, F dominant 7th, start again. You can use those arpeggios. So practice that progression. If you go through that, be sure you'll have gone through the 2-5-1, you shall have gone through the 7-3-6. Okay, so after you go through that progression, you'll now be ready to go to the next section, where we are going to talk about some passing chords that we can begin applying to our movements. Now, don't worry, because we still have sections ahead where we'll now look at real song examples. So we are first taking time to go through the concepts. After we lay down the concepts and the little bit of theory that we need to understand, now we can be able to interpret music well. So take time and go through that section, and then we can move to the next chapter, where we'll now look at some passing chords for our progressions.